John Lee with St. Louis Real Estate Investors Association. We are here with Miss Katharyn Davis and some other board members that's going to fill us in on what's going on in Missouri that directly affects us. Kathy, am I still coming in okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Better, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. So I guess if you want, you go ahead and just tell us what you were just saying.
Okay. Well, the governor signed some of the legislation that the legislature managed to get passed this year, earlier this week. For the most part, this will go into effect August 28th. Some of the stuff was a little weird. For example, now homeowners associations may not stop you from having chickens. I know having chickens is very important, so I'm sure you're all relieved that you can now have chickens. Um, and the big one is, there's a couple other weird things that the title companies are all freaking out about having to register transfers of title in the circuit court if there's collectible rental judgments having to do with the property. We don't even know what it means. It's so poorly written. So I'll be back with more on that when we've got it figured out. I've got John Schaefer of St. Louis Title working on it. But the squatter bill is big. I think we talked about this a little bit when I was there at your in-person meeting, but now, starting August 28th, you're going to be able to get rid of squatters really super fast, kind of like a domestic violence OP. The judges and the courts were taken a little bit unawares by this. So I'm going to be doing a Zoom with some of the judges and some other people in the next week or two to figure out what the forms are going to be and, that kind of thing. But we should have something in place by August 28th. I'm thinking that they're going to keep it in the regular associate civil divisions. There's a chance, since it's an ex parte order, that they'll put it in with the domestic violence stalking type OP dockets. So we don't know yet. Each court is going to have to decide, how they want to handle this. We don't really know what the volume is going to be, how many squatters there are. And of course, this is kind of like 441s, even more so. We're going to want to vet them really carefully, and we're not going to let you file them unless we think, or file them for you, unless we think that we really have the goods on this, because there's some stiff penalties if you do this wrongfully. But the basic deal is it has to be someone who's unlawfully occupying without permission of the property owner, who otherwise has no legal right to occupy the property under state law and not afford any protections provided to a tenant. So this is not like, I'm tired of my tenant, so I'm going to say, poof, they're not a tenant anymore, they're a squatter now. This is people who break in and get in the property. And I know we've all heard of cases like this. I've seen a few. And sometimes before the statute, it was difficult because it was pretty much, we had to file an ejectment to get them out. The police would not generally just turf someone out, they feel it's a civil matter. And I think it was hard for them to be on the sidewalk with people arguing back and forth to decide what they can do. Now this gives us and the police some ground to stand on with respect to these people. So, the clerks are supposed to help you fill out the forms. Well, the clerks don't even have the forms yet. I'm probably writing the forms. So hopefully I'll get that done before August 28th and get all of our local circuits on board with it. I'm trying to scan through it real quick and see whatever else. The petitioner is the property owner or authorized agent. The property it's residential only. An unlawful occupant have entered and remain. The property was not open to the public. They are not now or ever had permission of the property owner. They're not guests of the property owner. We've told them to leave. This one is a little tough. The property has not been leased to any person for 3 consecutive months. And so if you kick someone out and then a squatter moves in the following week, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that yet. They can't be your family members. They can't be. So this is not the way to get out the brother-in-law that stayed too long. they can't be current or former tenants. There's no pending litigation between you and them. And the technical name for the kind of relief we're going to get is an ex parte order. It will take in effect, the hearing will be within 48 hours of filing the petition, and you'll get an ex parte order, presumably at that hearing. And the courts, the sheriff or the police will be able to kick the person out. And there's a whole list of things that we'll be able to ask for, involving restraining them and keeping them from on your property and keeping them from bothering you, including your pet, including violence against a pet. They're not going to be able to do that. Somebody's pet must have gotten, bothered by a squatter. They're not allowed to get in touch with you. A lot of this is very similar to the domestic violence ex parte orders. They're supposed to pay the cost of repair. I'm thinking collecting from some of these squatters is not going to be easy, but we can get orders saying that. The sheriff is supposed to, once the court grants an order, the sheriff is supposed to remove them. They can arrest them. They get a sheriff's fee. Everybody always gets their fee. And also this gives the power to a law enforcement officer, not the sheriff, so your police, to enforce these. There's some penalties if you do this wrongfully, and these people, squatters, can also be charged criminally, but it's a Class A misdemeanor. I don't know if our various jurisdictions are going to be excited about prosecuting people for this kind of stuff, but they might do it if they do it repeatedly. So obviously it's a long statute. We're still reviewing it. I'm going to be having meetings. We're going to figure it out, but hopefully we'll get the courts ready to have this new tool, starting at the end of August. If anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to take them, but I'm not sure that I would have the answers yet. Lloyd, you're muted.
Hey, Kathy, Jim Heiser here.
Oh, hey, Jim.
Hey, got a question. Well, it's two questions. First of all, is this the same as what DeSantis signed in Florida?
I don't know. I've never seen the Florida statute.
Well, they just came out with some squatter legislation down there, and I don't know anything more about it. I just heard it on the news.
Well, often this kind of thing, many states will adopt it. If one state gets it all drafted and everything, then other states will take a look at it and pick it up. So it could be we got there first, or Florida, or some other state. I don't know. But they could be doing something very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a problem in Florida.
I just saw he signed it into law, I think, last week or something.
I got my hands full with Missouri.
Well, maybe Missouri copied it from Florida.
Yeah.
Maybe they copied it from us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's possible. Second thing is, we know of a real estate group in town that had a squatters move in, and I won't mention any names, but they bought the property, the people moved in, and the new owners thought that they had all the rights. They bought the property, so they transferred all the utilities into their name. And in the meantime, squatters moved into the property and they claimed sovereign citizenship.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It took forever to get them out. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, those sovereign citizens, one of the many varieties of crazy people that we see in court. And I think they're getting crazier, honestly. Those sovereign citizens are something else. And we evict them sometimes because they've been tenants. They don't recognize the jurisdiction of the court. There's something about the flag, whether it has fringe or doesn't have fringe, and something about admiralty courts. I mean, they have a whole thing,
Yeah.
There's a guy who drives around town who has sovereign citizen license plates rather than real license plates. And he keeps getting ticketed, but he doesn't recognize the tickets either. I think eventually somebody's going to pop him in jail, but until then, So at their worst, they can really do bad things like put liens on your property and that kind of stuff. Even though they don't believe our government's legitimate, apparently they believe in the legitimacy of the recorder of deeds, because they'll go down there and record all this weird stuff. Or they'll show up for court. Even if they don't believe in court, they'll show up for court. I don't know. Some of our judges have gotten very smart ass with them. It's kind of hilarious sometimes. But yeah, the problem with before we had this squatter bill was if you had someone who just moved into a property or, broke in and took it over, you didn't have a prior landlord-tenant relationship, so you didn't have the ability to do a rent possession and unlawful detainer or a 441. So we had to do ejectments, and, I charge more for those because they're circuit court actions. They take longer. I mean, they're winnable and generally winnable, maybe 3 to 6 months, but they're not as fast as a regular eviction. And, the worst is when the people file some weird stuff and then you have to get a setting and have it heard. The circuit judges don't like to hear these kinds of cases, so they're not excited about giving us time, but, they generally know that if someone like me is doing it, we know what we're doing, we're going to take an hour, we're going to put our evidence on, we're going to be done. But, yeah, I mean, that's a big pain in the butt. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people are sovereign citizens. Some of them are probably homeless people. As you know, the homeless problem is a huge problem. A lot of the homeless people, I guess I'm supposed to call them the unhoused, get offered beds in shelters and they don't want to go to a shelter. And sometimes it's often, I think, because they're mentally ill. And sometimes they are, using drugs or alcohol, and maybe they're doing that to treat their mental illness, but the court system is not really equipped to handle that. I'm not equipped to handle that. The police are generally not equipped to handle that. Even the homeless experts, and I know a few of them, are not always successful in coaxing the people to get services or come to a shelter or that kind of thing. But, there's, they form the tent encampments, they camp under overpasses. They tried to start a tent encampment at Kings Highway and 40 by the WashU signs. And I think WashU got them out fast, that wasn't going to happen. And I know you all heard about that couple that was living on the curb outside the people's house in South St. Louis, and the city wouldn't do anything for 3 years. I will ask you this: if they set up a camp in Clayton, how long do you think Clayton would let them stay there? I would say, 1 hot minute, and they would be gone. So some of it's an enforcement issue, and some of it is a big mental health, drug addiction issue. And when those people, this statute is going to be perfect for that, because when those people break into your house, your property, we're going to be able to get them out a lot faster. And as I said earlier, the police have been reluctant to just put someone out because it's a little unfair to them. They got people yelling at each other on the sidewalk. They're not sure who's telling the truth. And sometimes we do have that phenomenon where you have the fake landlord who finds an empty property and scams someone, gives them a lease and everything and lets them move in. And that's not really that tenant's problem. They got scammed. That wasn't the owner. But, then you got somebody who's waving a lease around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we have the internet, anybody can download a lease and fill in the blanks. Right?
Yeah.
So people can generate paperwork and make it seem like they're in there legitimately. So this gives us the right to have a fast hearing and a fast execution on the judgment from that hearing. And hopefully before the person does a lot of damage and, stays in your property for too long.
So even if they claim sovereign citizenship, this bill or law is going to really
Yeah.
a lot to forego that issue. Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. So, they also passed, and the governor signed, the no eviction moratoriums. But that only applies to municipalities, the city of St. Louis, the county, Belnor, whatever. The legislature doesn't have the power to tell the courts when they can and can't have court. So if hopefully never in our lifetimes we get another pandemic and the PJ of the Missouri Supremes decides that they're going to shut courts down to keep everybody safe for a couple of months, legislature can't do anything about it. That will happen. They can stop Sam Page from having an eviction moratorium, but Sam Page really couldn't tell the courts whether or not they could evict people anyway. So that might be helpful in some regards, but I'm not sure that, I mean, it's not going to stop a court from doing what a court wants to do. Don't go into a courtroom ever and tell the judge you can't do that, because they will show you that they can. Yeah. Okay. So that was my big news. I was, out last week at the pool with my grandchildren for 4th of July. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. And I didn't want to wait until the first week in August to come and tell you this. So I thank John and everybody for letting me pop in today. If anybody else has any questions, I'd be happy to take them. If not, by August, I should know more about how the squatter thing is going to function. Yeah.
When you do an eviction, and I got one going with your office right now. It's been so long since we've had a problem tenant. But explain to us, when the sheriff comes, what's the procedure now with how many people he brings with him? Where does the furniture go and all that? And what's your responsibility as a landlord in the county to get that off the street after X amount of days?
Okay. In the county now and in the city, the sheriff no longer puts the stuff out. That you set the time with the sheriff. You have to be there at that time, and they can change it at the last minute. If they have evictions cancel and that kind of stuff, they might call you at the last minute and say, hey, we're coming 2 hours early. So you got to be flexible. You got to have somebody with you, or you have to be able to change the locks. They enter the property. They get rid of any people that are in there. They're supposed to look for contraband, drugs and guns. I don't know how much time they really spend doing that. And then you change the locks and lock the place up. It's a little amorphous what the responsibility is for the personal property of the tenant that's in the property. We try to encourage you, if you think you can do it safely without the people, getting back in, to let them take their stuff. But obviously you don't have to sit there for weeks and let them do that. I have some complexes I represent who basically say you can make an appointment on the following Saturday morning and the maintenance man will be there and supervise you removing your stuff. You don't want their stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's valuable to them, but not to you. And there was a bad lawsuit in St. Louis County last year where a landlord got hit with a 6-figure judgment for not letting them back in to get their stuff, which is really not what the law says. And I don't know what happened with that, but we were going to file an amicus if they appealed it, but they ended up settling it rather than appealing it. So we never got to have our voices heard on that. But you all know that, the law is sort of, or the public sentiment, shall I say, is more anti-landlord now than it ever used to be. I don't know where they think people are going to live if there's no landlords, but I don't think they've thought that through really. So that's what you do.
I'm not clear on that. In other words, when they come and unlock their, let's say I have a locksmith and he, opens up the front door, all that stuff is in there. They don't have a group. They used to have 2 or 3 guys in a beat up car coming in trucks, and they all go in there and move everything out, take it out.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
So they just leave. You got everything inside of the people. Yep. All they do is get rid of the people inside the property.
That's right.
And so then you relock it up with all their quote stuff inside the property.
Correct.
And then it's up to you as a landlord to whether or not you allow them back in to get their stuff.
Correct.
And they don't have any right to say you stole any of their stuff if you have an issue with time.
You're protected by the statute if you follow the legal process and go through a sheriff eviction from responsibility for their stuff. That being said, if you can let them take their stuff, we kind of think you should. If you can do it without putting yourself at risk or having them move back in. That's what we're worried about, is that they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to get my stuff now. And then they're going to just move back in.
So I could just, after it's all said and done, let them come back in, and if I'm there, they get their stuff and supervise, make sure they're in and out, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Kathy, I have a question in regards to that because that's, as Jim is aware, that's the scenario I was just in. I had to go through an eviction and then throw the tenants' things away. Can I then go back and ask for a judgment for the money spent for clean out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what I'm going to say what I always say, take pictures, keep track of all your receipts, keep track of your expenses, keep track of all of that. I mean, I also want to be brutally honest that a lot of people, when they're being evicted, it's really hard to collect money from them. They're
Yeah.
not people who have stable jobs or, assets that we can go after.
Yeah, not in this case. This lady just didn't want to pay.
Well,
her and her Mercedes walked off with my money. So.
Chris and Christine do have checks rolling in here from sheriff's office every day that we collect from garnishment. So some of it is collectible. I hate to seem so gloomy. It's just that I'm the one that's responsible for reviewing old files and shredding them. And I shred a lot of judgments that were never paid.
Yeah.
After 10 years, we're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, how are you? And thank you so much for meeting with us and giving us this information. The last few meetings I've had technical difficulties, and today I was a few minutes late. So I'm not going to ask you to go over information you've already given, but what I would like to know is where do I find the info for the squatter ordinance, the thing about that we might have to supply an AC unit for each apartment and the landlord registration fee? Would that be the city website?
Yeah, for a couple of those things, the landlord registration and the AC are city ordinances, so you'd look on the city. The squatter thing is a state legislature bill, and it's House Bill 2062. If you look on the governor's page, he has an announcement posted on July 9th for 5 bills that he signed into law. Which include the squatter bill and the chickens. And it's also prohibits the local government from acquiring churches and not-for-profits from making them install electric vehicle charging stations. There's some water pollution stuff. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And then if you Google House Bill 2062, it's a long omnibus bill with a lot of stuff in it, but the squatter part is maybe halfway through.
I'm a weirdo. I like reading that stuff.
It is starts on page 66 of that bill.
Page 66. Thank you so much.
It's right after the Homeowners Association can't stop you from having chickens.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm glad our legislature is busy with the important stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of it kind of is to, because homeowners associations, I can't fathom, just.
I don't think they should be allowed to tell you anything, but
right, exactly. It's your home, you bought it. They shouldn't be able to tell you anything.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be able to take your home for taxes or fees.
Mind
or
your own
any of
business.
that.
Get a job.
Yeah, agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Kathy, I don't know if you're in this area, but I was talking about contracts, and if you hire a contractor, but he's got manual laborers or subcontractors, how does that relate to, I think in Ohio, I heard somebody say that if you hire a contractor, but he doesn't cover workman's comp, then the person hiring them is liable for the workman's comp. So I don't know.
I
So
think
you
you
should
should be
always
careful about stuff like that. You should make sure that you see their insurance.
Right.
And you should make sure that they have a contractor's license. I don't really do that kind of work, but I have a problem in the city right now where there's a guy who is holding himself out as a contractor. He doesn't have a license. He doesn't have insurance. And we're trying to get him to stop doing that, make him not do that anymore. But yeah, there are a lot of fly-by-night contractors, people who will take your deposit. You'll never see them again. You've got a lot better chance of getting good work done by in a workmanlike manner from somebody who has insurance and a license, rather than just an old
I
pickup
guess
truck.
it's a problem trying to verify that they've got a license. I don't know if the state and or the city, county has a registration area? Because I know there's probably thousands of people out there who don't have licenses. And how
Yeah,
do you,
the city of St. Louis requires licenses, and I would imagine there's some way for you to look that up on their website. I have not done
There
that.
actually is not the website. They don't have, I found this out after we got scammed. But they don't have a list of contractors that are licensed, which I think would make it so much easier, but I digress. But they do have, I forgot which department it is, but if you call them and say, is John Smith licensed in St. Louis City, they will tell you yes or no. And in order to perform work in the city, you have to be licensed with them, not just with the state, I believe.
Yeah. Good information from Renee. And since we're talking about the city, one more thing I have for you is that the right to counsel bill in the city, which was passed last year, and they've got what's dwindled from 5 million to 300,000 that they're going to allocate to give free lawyers to tenants who are being evicted. That was supposed to start July 1st. It still hasn't started. It looks like legal services is going to be doing the representation, and the city had the unrealistic expectation that legal services would represent all the tenants being evicted for $300,000. Legal services said, yeah, no. And so they're still negotiating that. The city has not hired a coordinator for the program yet, and there's no information to give out. So the requirement under the ordinance that you notify tenants you're evicting of the information about how they can get their free lawyer really can't go into effect yet because they don't have the process set up. Again, we're going to keep John apprised, and I'll be back in August, and I'll let you know when and if we get that info. If you do your evictions through us, when that requirement kicks in that you have to notice the tenant, we'll do it. If you don't, we'll get you the thing so that you can send it or give it to your own lesser lawyer to send. Okay, guys, let me just look in the chat real quick and see if I missed anything. Why is my chat not opening? Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. I just put that link you shared with us on the governor.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get some further information, that's a good resource right there. So,
Okay, well, I have to go play pickleball. So
thank you.
I'll see you guys next month.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you very much.
thanks, Kathy. Yeah.
All right. Great information. We appreciate Kathy coming in at least once a month, if not more. Got some great information, and I don't know why anybody would use anybody else. If you do, then that is a lesser attorney as far as I think I'm concerned, because she's always such a good supporter of our group. So, okay, we'll get started here. I want to go ahead. We've got some technical things, so I've got a recording of, let me find it here, of Laura's disclaimer here. We find it, and then we'll get started. Here we go. There we are.
Welcome, everyone. First, I'd like to do a bit of housekeeping. Feel free to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. Please be mindful of everyone else by muting yourself while others are speaking. You're welcome to put any contact information that you want to share into the chat. We meet here to share deals, look for deals and solutions we have in need with our real estate. We are not your financial advisors, attorney, or accountants. We do not endorse or recommend any specific solutions or contractors here. You're advised to do your own due diligence to your own satisfaction before you invest. The first Friday of each month is Ask the Attorney with Ms. Katharyn Davis. Our meetings are typically recorded, so only share what you want others to know.
All right, thank you, virtual Laura. So, yeah, the squatters is interesting. I was kind of glad that bill passed. I had a squatter a few years ago. It was actually October of 2020 when all the stuff was going on with the courts and they couldn't get in. Somebody broke into a house that I had, moved their stuff in. Well, I was only going to the house a couple times a week. It was my personal residence for many years ago in Florissant. And I immediately noticed somebody got in there, which was really weird. So I called the police and I changed the locks. I had locks there right then. This is before all the squatters came here. And we made the police report. I put all the guy's stuff out there, and then I went for the next couple of days to the house. Well, all of a sudden I got a phone call. This was on a Friday. I got a phone call Monday night from the police and from one of the neighbors. The guy had broke in and actually went in my shed and got a gas can I just filled up for the yard, dumped it all over the house and caught it on fire. Then it was a 4-alarm fire, and all these fire trucks were there from all over, and he tried to steal one of the fire trucks. Okay, so it was a weird thing. It was actually on Channel 4. You can still go back and look at the archives at their article there. But so they caught the guy red-handed. Well, he went to jail that night. And my insurance company, what they ended up doing is, I was starting to make a list of everything, and I had stuff there for 20 years, so it was really difficult. What they ended up doing was paying me the full amount of the insurance policy for contents and for the dwelling, which I came out okay on that, even though I lost, priceless stuff I could not get back. Well, we were still doing the courts by virtual at that point. And that's when they did the WebEx, I believe it was. It was after they quit doing Zoom. And I sat there. They actually let the guy go, even though they had him red-handed of stealing the fire truck and admitted to breaking in and catching the place on fire, being an arsonist. St. Louis County let the guy go. He walked after that. And I could not believe it. I sat there on the court watching from the court, virtually. And I came out okay as it was, not really, but it's just unbelievable. And this is before all the squatter stuff started happening like we've had in the last year or so, because now they've got rights. This is one of the greatest things they could have done for us in Missouri here. And I'm glad to see us on the forefront here. So anyway, yeah, any of the things you need with that, Kathy is our greatest resource, and really so valuable to share all this with us. So we really appreciate her. So anyway, that's all I had. That's my little squatter story, and hopefully we'll never have another one. But so does anybody have anything they'd like to share with us other than that today?
Actually, someone asked in the chat for the number, so I thought I would for the number for the collector's office to find out if a contractor's licensed in St. Louis City. So I put everything in the chat, which building, which room to go in person, and the phone number. But I thought, since it is recorded, that I would state it verbally for people who are watching it later. So it is the license collector's office, business license office, City Hall, room 104. And the phone number is 314-622-4528. And those are the people to contact if you want to find out if a contractor's licensed in the city. You just call them and ask. Like I said earlier, it would make more sense if they just had a list, but they don't have one.
Thank you, Renee. That's very helpful, and appreciate you saying it verbally too for anybody watching the replay. That's really good things to know. You don't know until you need it too. So that's very nice. Thank you.
Good morning. I do have a quick question. Good morning to everyone. My name is Mary. I'm in Chicago. I happen to find your meetup here on Meetup. Is this only for deals in St. Louis?
It's for anybody you want. We've got members in 16 states, and people tune in from all over the world now at times.
Okay, so it's not just St. Louis. Since I've been here in St. Louis a lot, I figured let me just ask that question first.
Sure. That's just where we're based. But yeah, you're welcome to share anything you would like, Mary.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Did you have something from Chicago or from another area you'd like to?
No, no, but I would actually now, since I guess I'll have the chance to ask a question. I know real estate, like residential flips like the palm of my hand. I've negotiated millions of dollars with short sales. So, I have a lot of experience with that. But I was really looking into the meetup to try to I want to get my hands into, because I've had the stories with the landlords and the tenants and everything. But I'm really looking to diversify my portfolio now with apartment buildings, commercial. Does this REIA cover commercial, or is it only residential?
Well, some of the members do. We actually had Brad Sumrock a couple months ago do our main meeting, and we could get you a replay link on that. He's out of Texas, but there are people in here that do it. I know personally, I've only done some smaller multi-units, but there are people that do some bigger ones here. So you just never know. You're welcome to come in and ask people, are you looking for something in particular?
No, I want to get myself, actually, I'm going to start looking for commercial deals to negotiate short sales, believe it or not, because people always think, oh, there's no short sales. And I'm like, you're wrong. Look at the auctions. There's short sales everywhere. So I am looking into doing some commercial short sale negotiations. That's why I was looking more into the commercial arena. I want to go more with more apartment. I want more doors in the same building versus having multiple, I had at one time several single family up to 2 units, but I don't want to spread myself like that anymore. I rather just have more doors in one place so it's easier to manage it all under one roof. That's the reason why I'm heading towards that direction.
Okay, and I think you're at the right time also, Mary, because I see people in some of the other groups that do some bigger deals. And one of the things they're having a problem with, or a lot of them, is they're having to bring money to the table to refinance because they're all, adjustable. And some of these are coming due now on some they bought a few years ago, and the rates are way different. Some of them don't even cash flow. So there's a good chance that you could probably get some short sales out of there.
Right. That's why I said I want to start looking into the apartment commercial side of it, because I love the residential, but I want to stay away from residential right now.
Well, maybe you could come back and keep us informed on what you run into, because this is a great place to learn. This is a
Absolutely.
good group of people, and we always appreciate all the shares.
Absolutely. I would love to, because again, I'm looking into the short sale side of it.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Do you have any contact information you'd like to share with us?
For me?
Yes.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to. I'll put it on the chat if you want to, put my email, because again, I love negotiating short sales. So I'm going to put it on the chat. And I'm very big on Facebook. So I'm a mompreneur. So it's Mary Mompreneur on, if it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And
Okay.
I'll put my full name, and I'll say my phone number too. I honestly, believe it or not, I'm that type of person. I don't mind saying my phone number if it's okay. Because I know there's a couple of replays. It's the 847-257-5541. I believe in relationships. I still believe in, you pick up the phone, you have that type of relationship. And again, I've been an entrepreneur for 35 years. I had my mortgage company for 20 years in Chicago. So when the market crashed in 2007, I couldn't do any more loans. So I became very, very good at negotiating short sales. And when I was able to see that the realtors, the investors could not put the deals together, I then started to become the buyer. So that's how I was able to flip several short sales as the buyer. So I started to do my marketing with a very powerful yellow letter that I still do to owners that are facing auction. And I let them know, I'm a buyer. And they love it because they know they're not dealing with the realtor, they're dealing with the buyer. But then if you as the investor have the realtor on the team or the negotiator on the team, then I think that's how you could start piecing it together, because you're putting a team together to help a homeowner that really wants to avoid the foreclosure. And that's how I started to do my flips and short sales in the residential. But then I said, now I want to do the commercial, because I know that at the end of the day, there's more zeros, but it's the same idea. A short sale is a short sale.
That's great, Mary. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And maybe that's something you could tune in now and then and tell us how your progress is going.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I love short sales. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. In the mortgage industry, I have a little history myself there, and I got out a little bit before 2007, but I know a lot of people that completely changed what they're doing. And I'm so glad to hear what you did, because that it's not really a different direction, but it's because it's similar, but you already had some of the expertise in your, your portfolio of what you can do there. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, because see, the thing is that the misconception that I see from investors and realtors, especially now, that they think, oh, there's no deals. That is false, because when the market first crashed in 2007, I thought that was the beginning of short sales, and I was wrong. because the lender said, no, Mary, short sales have been in existing ever since banks started to lend money because people fall in default. Just like this meeting started, with tenants, they don't pay the landlords and they have to be evicted. Same thing. People wait till the last minute. So there's always short sales. There's never been a shortfall of short sales. So that's why I tell everybody, just follow the auctions. If you follow the auctions in St. Louis or in everywhere you are, why are they still ending up with the lender? Because again, people are chasing the deals that are in the open market. They're ignoring the auctions. But the lenders don't want these bad debt. The lender really would rather do a short sale. That's why I always tell people, please don't think that there's no short sales. Just look at the auctions and that's where the deals are.
Absolutely. Very good information, Mary. I appreciate you bringing that up because you're absolutely right. People follow the easiest low-hanging fruit is what most investors do. And there's such a big, wide variety of other ways to do it. And like yourself, just be the expert in that one little area and you'll move way up and the deals are there. They're always there.
No, they are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share with us today? Anybody have anything they're buying, selling, anything they're working on? I know we got a couple of good things coming up. Our Lloyd, do you want to talk about our main event coming up? And then we have some other things too, but I know you.
Yeah, I can put in a few words to remind everybody about our coming up this coming Tuesday on July 16th. We've got Nikki Stevens. She is a communications expert. And I've said in the past that when I've been on some panel discussions, one of the things, this is a people business and you need to know how to communicate with people. And a lot of us aren't that great at it, and everybody can use some improvement. So Nikki's going to give us some great actionable things we can do to improve our communication skills. And I'm really looking forward to hearing her. She's a national speaker. We're fortunate she's based right here in St. Louis, though. So she's going to get to stay in her hometown here and make our presentation next Tuesday. So looking forward to seeing folks there, and we're still doing food too. We got pizzas coming from Papa John's. So get there early and we'll have pizza for you. So you don't have to grab something or a sandwich or something on your way back away from work if you got a job. I know I used to do that regularly. I have to stop at Subway or somewhere to pick up a bite to eat from before I came to a meeting, but don't have to do that anymore.
Meet that moolah, right?
Yeah, we meet at the Moolah Shriner. You can find all that information on our website, STLREIA.com, or on Meetup. Google Meetup STLREIA, and we got that all those meetings posted on Meetup also.
Thank you, Lloyd. Yeah, that ought to be a real good meeting. It's always good to meet in person. I know it's we kind of met about that earlier today, and you get a lot of benefit. And just like we're kind of talking about, networking is huge, especially in this business, because that's where you really find out what people are actually doing. In fact, we the next month too, we didn't even really bring it up too much yet, but Laura and I just went to the Missouri tax sale seminar a couple weeks ago over in Gladstone, and actually we only knew about that because of Katharyn Davis, our attorney that comes in here, once a month, and she was one of the speakers there talking, and we got to meet a lot of good people. What we were able to do though is by talking to Scott Walterbach, who's the main one to put this on. He's a big shot with Missouri tax sales, which is I won't go into too many details, but Missouri tax sales is way different than most states out there, okay? Because we are a deed and a lien state, and don't really have time to go over all the things now. But I personally have bought a lot of properties for back taxes. That's another specialty, like Mary's talking about here with short sales, but that's something you can get into, and not a lot of people understand it. But they're coming over to our side of the state next year, so we've already got the tentatively, and we'll talk more about this at the meeting, because if we're going to kind of pre-sell the meeting a little bit for June 20th next year, 2025. And I would highly recommend that you get your spot sooner rather than later. You're going to rub shoulders with attorneys, with government officials. One of the speakers we had was from St. Charles County, Michelle McBride, the collector, and I know a lot of us have properties in St. Charles County. We pay her a lot. She is one of the most personable people, but I would have never known that just by sending her my check every year, a couple times a year. But she was there. A lot of other government people there, and the way the actual tax sale seminar works is there's a lot of attorneys there too, because the attorneys get CE credits, you know, that they need to keep their license going. People that are in government, they get to go, and it's no cost to them, but you'll have collectors and you'll have just assessors. We had people that were just all kinds of different government people that actually talked about how the counties work, because in Missouri, which is different than a lot of states, every county is different. All 114 entities are different, and they can do whatever they want, even though they all fall underneath the Jones-Munger Act of, I think it was 1944. But then there's all these interpretations. And what's so interesting about this is it all comes up, you know, that every time a case goes to trial, it's different. Is it judicial, non-judicial? And a lot of the stuff really is over my head, but these people explain it very well. In fact, that's where our August meeting is going to be, on Missouri tax sales, just about less than a week before the actual tax sales. Because another thing that's kind of weird about Missouri is all the tax sales are on the same day, the fourth Monday in August, and you have to be there in person or have a personal representative to even bid on the properties. I personally have never been to a tax sale, even though I bought thousands of properties, but I buy them over the counter, which is another whole different strategy. But we're going to have Dale Sweet being one of our speakers there, and he does a lot of quiet titles here in the St. Louis area. And he's probably the authority in our whole area on how this all works, because it's one thing to buy the property, but then you got to clear the title, because the title companies don't just say it's okay because you bought it at a tax sale. There could be heirs, and I've gone through this probably 100 times myself with my attorney over the years, and that's a whole process of notifications. And you know, there's a way to do this. In fact, we used to send off only certified mail, but there was a case in I think it was 2009 or 10 in Arkansas, where the guy was illiterate, and he didn't know he had to fill, he couldn't read the little yellow card he got for the certified mail. So it was a big lawsuit, and this changed everything in the whole country. Now you have to have certified mail plus regular mail, because he got his regular mail. He walked down a mile to the mailbox every couple of days or something and got it, but he didn't understand what this was. At least that's the way the law was. So that's an old thing. And this stuff, it actually changes all the time. I mean, every time you turn around, there's another different act or different part of legislation that we have to have. So this is such good information to have. And I'm really excited that we were able to get Scott to bring this over to our side of the state next year. So that'll be something, and it's going to be in the Realtor Building. We kind of talked about that earlier this morning. It's going to be at the Realtor Building over in Olive, where our group used to meet every month before the COVID changed kind of things up for us. But that's going to be a really good thing. And I would recommend that you go ahead. It's like $100 for an investor or professional to do it. The attorney's got to pay like double that. I don't know, maybe $200, something like that, because they get the CE credits. And then the government officials are absolutely no cost. So just talking about getting in the room with people that are actually, you know, action takers and making things happen. This was one of the best seminars that I've been to in a long time. And I go, as you know, a lot of you know, I go to a lot of stuff because education is key, especially when you're an investor or when you're with groups. So this is something that you're and we'll have more information about that at our August meeting. That is, let me just look real quick here. Let's see. And you might want to mark your calendars. This is August
August 20th.
13th.
No,
It's the 20th. It's the third Tuesday.
Oh, it's the 3rd. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Thank you. August the 20th. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, August the 20th. So you might want to mark your calendars for that too. And we probably will have a Zoom option. You can always find that out on the website that Lloyd mentioned, STLREIA.com. So just kind of watch that, but also tune into our July meeting, and we'll have some more updates. We always have updates. Of course, every Friday we do meet here. We're in our 5th year here, and we have not missed a Friday yet. So that's always good stuff to have. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there while it was fresh in my head, because, Missouri tax sales are very interesting. If you understand them, you can make a lot of money at them. If you don't, which most people don't, most people go look at the national, tax seminar people and that kind of stuff, and they never, it's really, they don't understand it. I see that all the time. In fact, one of the lists that I get all the time, 1 month it'll have Missouri is a lien state, and 1 month it'll have a deed state. Well, it depends on the month, and it also depends on the year of the sale. Which is a whole different thing. So we'll definitely get more into that. And also just mark your calendars though for next year on June 20th. And as soon as we have the pre-sale information, I'd recommend going ahead and getting that on there. And it does include lunch. So make a trip out of it. Most of us make these tax deductible trips anyway. I know we went to Gladstone a couple weeks ago, and I'm really glad I did. It was not really a great vacation destination, but it was one of the best networking events I've been to in a long time with local Missouri people from Kansas City side and from the St. Louis side and everything in between. So that's something, they're all coming here next year. So that's about all I have. That's a lot of stuff coming up though. And of course we have some other meetings. We do meet the third Tuesday every month in person, and we meet here. We also have the lunch. Lloyd, would you like to talk about the lunch that we have once a month now?
Yeah, our next lunch is coming up. Let's see. It's August the 5th. It's always on the first Monday, and it's at the Applebee's on Olive Boulevard at 270, right there in Creve Coeur, kind of a central location there in central St. Louis County. It's 11 o'clock to whenever. It's we usually go to 1 o'clock at least. Depends on what's there to be discussed. Stick around, and it's free to attend. Just buy your own lunch, and we usually have a pretty good crowd. So put that on your calendar too. If you got while you got your calendars out, putting all these days down. The 5th of August is the first Monday in August. So looking forward to seeing everybody there too, or as many as you can make it.
Thank you. Yeah, another good event. I know we took off for a little while because of COVID, it changed some things, but we've always had a good turnout. And Applebee's is a great location right there, real central, easy to get to. Very nice. Great for networking. A lot of deals get done there too. And one thing, like our disclaimer, just make sure you do your own due diligence, because just because you meet people here and we like a lot of people doesn't mean, that you really shouldn't check everybody out. I know Kathy mentioned and Renee mentioned the checking into licenses. That's something. I know we just built our place out here, and there's no such thing as a license in Mine-Lamont, Missouri of any type. I don't think half of them have driver's licenses for driving around, but that's something you do want to know who you're dealing with. So,
you said I got done deals. Yeah, I've actually helped my brother sell one of his properties. Made a contact there. Like we had a lady that got bought a bunch of real estate from out of town or out of state even. Somebody sold her a bill of goods in St. Louis of houses that weren't what they turned out to be. And she was wanting to unload them, and I think we found some buyers for all of her houses and took care of her problem just over lunch. That was pre-pandemic, so we're looking to get back into those kind of things since we started doing this again. We started doing lunches again here just this year.
It's just a great place to network and find out stuff. You find out stuff just by meeting, like you said, Lloyd, that you just don't find out, but even on here, people talk a lot about different things, and we're here to help and share and look for deals and things like that. But a lot of times you find these extra little things, because sometimes people don't even know they have a deal, but just by sitting there at the table talking over lunch, you find out that there's ways to, get things done. And that's really what it's all about. Let's see, Lois, you have an update from last week on the resurfacing. It looks like you had good luck. Would you like to unmute and tell us about that?
Yeah, he came by yesterday and did the tub. I sat there and watched him, and He did a great job. He just told me that, a lot of these other companies, they're, fly by night. They come and they go and they don't prep the surfaces properly. So hopefully this one will last a lot longer than, it was almost 3 years the last time the other company did it. So that's what I'm hoping.
That's great. And what's his name, if you don't mind mentioning it verbally for anybody watching the replay? Because I know we had a good discussion on that last week.
Yeah. His name is Eric. He is the owner of A New Look Resurfacing, and his phone number is 314-368-6198.
Very nice. And how long did it take him to get out there? I don't think that was real long. I know you were on the schedule.
Yeah, it only took about a week, and we had the holiday in there too, so that wasn't very long at all.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, how much did that cost, Lois?
Okay, it cost $125 for him to strip the tub, and then to reglaze it was $525.
That seems very reasonable.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all, considering that the whole tub was, peeling from the previous guy who did it.
Let me suggest to all of you, because we've been doing it for 40 years with tubs every once in a while. In your case, if it's peeling, there's no recourse. You got to do what you were doing, I think. But what the hint I got from the guys who do this is, at least the one company, and it's worked quite well for me, is before you, if it's just real dirty, and you think, oh my God, there's nothing I can do about it, lacquer thinner is unbelievable what it will clean on a tub. And lacquer thinner. Now you only want to use that on a steel tub or an iron tub. You don't want to do it on acrylic, okay, or plastic one. On a steel tub, or I guess a cast iron tub, you will be amazed if it's just dirty. And I mean beyond just using dial and scrubbing it down with a brush, but if it's really caked on there, lacquer thinner and like a 3M, you know how you get those 3M green and yellow pads at Lowe's or whatever, you can buy them in bulk. Try that first. The one guy that used to do it, the one company, said we would go out there sometimes and clean the tub with lacquer thinner, and all of a sudden the people would say, we don't need to repaint that. And that's true. And I just did it with one of mine. It was very filthy, and I used lacquer thinner on it, and boy, turn on the fan though, and make sure you got a good ventilation.
Yeah.
And gloves and the 3M, I think it's 3M, with the pads, and you scrub that thing down, and you'll be surprised sometimes you won't need to do it. Now, if it's peeling, that's another ballgame, okay? And again, you don't want to do it on acrylic or plastic. You gotta make sure it's a steel or cast iron. But you'll never hear that or read anywhere about that, but lacquer thinner. You can get a little can of it at Lowe's or whatever. Just a tip. It saved us on redoing tubs a number of times.
Thank you, Jim. That's a great tip right there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think Lois, I think you were telling us you had a guy do it a few years ago, and it just didn't. He didn't.
She did it already. The original.
Yeah, it was almost 3 years ago when he did it that time. And
Yeah, he didn't do it right. And
but
we've had that issue too. Yeah, we used to do them all the time for about $300, and now yeah, it's a $500 or $600 crack. But what's your alternative? I mean, I've ripped out tubs before, and once you retile the walls and everything, if you do that, you're forced with a tub that's real old. You got to make sure that you can clean it up, or you reglaze it, or you take it out. But once you take it out, then you got plumbing issues, plus more labor. You can buy a new tub, a nice one, for $300 or $400. It's cheaper than reglazing it, but it's all the other labor you got to do to put it in and reconnect it, to all your plumbing.
Yeah. So
that's the option, but you should get more than 3 years out of it. And if these guys are charging a couple $100 to do a tub, they're not doing it right. So you got to pay the piper here. But if it lasts you ideally at least 5 years, if not 10, that's the way to go.
Yeah, Eric does give a 5-year warranty, so I am hoping that this time it will last. And yeah, I mean, they only have one bathroom in that residence, so I'm not going to go tearing out a bathtub and replacing it at this point because the tenant won't have any place to.
Yeah, yeah.
shower.
You don't have much choice, but I mean, if the tub's in good shape and it's not rusting through, because I've had that issue before. You know, if you're on the first floor, I had a condo and on the first floor, it's on slab and it's rusting out or on the drain. I mean, where you can't really patch it unless you can get underneath it and really do it right. Well, you can't get underneath it if it's sitting on a slab, ground floor, then you gotta rip it out, you know. But yeah, that's, yeah, it is what it is, and anybody decent, I think, is gonna be in that range, 500, you know.
Well, also, when you tear them out, like you're saying, then you have other inspections and things that come with that. For just refinishing, you might be able to just leave everything the way it is.
Yeah,
I-
well, I did that with one of the tubs I just redone. Well, I didn't have to reglaze it, but I mean, I cleaned it up. And I basically tiled over the existing tile. The tile that was on the wall was in good shape, no problem, but it was old, you know, and didn't look good. So I just, you know, scratched up with a grinder the old tile and cleaned it off, and I got a good mortar and I tiled right over the old tile. I've done it a number of times and I've never had an issue with it failing.
Yeah, that's some great tips there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Amber, did you have something? I see your hand raised. You don't, you can just
Oh, yeah.
unmute yourself.
Yeah, since we're talking tubs, I was debating if I was going to say anything, but my I have a rental that I'm trying to get back on the market, and my property manager had somebody come by, had a plumber come by because when I went over, there's a jacuzzi tub, an older jacuzzi tub, but it was not holding water. So I had her come by and see if they could change out the fixture. I don't know exactly what wires were crossed, but I say as a landlord, make sure you know your property. Don't just rely on somebody else. So she sent this guy over. I get his bid for like $3,000. I'm like, what the heck is this? I asked you to fix one small thing, so what is this? Well, he said he tried to fix it, could not. So that means I'm going to have to replace the whole tub. And, you know, when you replace the tub, as Jim's talking about, then you need to replace the tile as well. And it may be some of the floor. So all of this small thing turned into a $3,000 fix. And I called him, right, because I received the bid. And he's, you know, telling me it was making, as he said, a screeching noise when he turned on the tub. I said, I was over there. I didn't hear any screeching noise. What are you talking about? Oh, I can meet you at the house tomorrow. Great. So this morning I met him over there. I filled up the tub before he got there. I tested it again. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe something was broken. Worked perfectly, right? I took a video of it. It worked perfectly. So he arrives, and then I literally pushed a little button. He looks at me, shell shocked, like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I mean, I'm so sorry. I don't want to waste your time. This was making a noise." Again, I say this story, make sure you know who you're dealing with. And I don't think he necessarily was trying to get over on me, but had I just went with what I was told, that would have been another $3,000 in basically a new bathroom. When really, okay, the mechanism is broke. I can probably go to Home Depot and get a pop-up stopper for $40.
Go ahead.
Hey, Amber, when we're done with this, why don't you give me a call? I'll talk to you about your situation, okay?
Yep, you got it, Jim.
All right.
Yeah, it's a good point, Amber. Know who you're dealing with. And that's, you just, it's so good to get recommendations and referrals. And I know Jim's got a couple of years experience, so he can definitely, tell you from experience the right way.
Call the school of hard knocks.
The best kind.
The school of screw ups and learning the hard way, you know?
Well, and I will say, like I said, the plumber was completely apologetic. Oh my gosh, I just knew I was going to come over here, and I promise you, ma'am, I'm an honest person, and I do all these businesses, and I do good work, and I'm just standing there like, the tub works. You were trying to charge me $3,000, and of course I didn't say this to him, but we're standing there, and he's just shocked that it's working.
He might have been a good actor.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always said, it's not that you gotta be able to do the work, but you gotta know what the work is gonna entail and what's a reasonable cost. That's why when you have major repairs going on, or even minor, stop by and see what the heck they're doing and talk and ask questions and learn what they have to do. Go online and look at YouTube. Not all the stuff's right what they show you on YouTube, but a lot of it is. And at least you should know as a landlord what things should cost. Not that you physically are go in there and turn a pipe wrench or whatever, but you're going to know what the amount of work should be required to do that, and what's a reasonable price. But many landlords, they strictly want to just bid it out, not know anything about it, and just get it done and fixed. But that's when you sometimes get a $3,000 bill when you should only maybe be getting a couple $100 bill. I see this stuff all the time.
Great advice, Jim. And I agree with you 100%. I want to know the roof's going to cost $5,000, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to climb up there with the shingles anymore. That was 20 years ago.
And you feel comfortable that that's a reasonable price if you got 3 or 4 bids,
Yes. And that's also good advice there on YouTube. I use YouTube a lot for things, and that's where I find out probably more of what I don't want to do than what I do want to do.
Exactly.
I want to just see it and then no, I'm not climbing up
Yeah.
there. I'm not tearing this up because, or whatever reason. And it's
Yeah.
usually the right reason too.
Yeah, and then you tear into something, and next thing you know, it affects something else behind a wall, and the next thing you know, this house I just got done rehabbing for my son. We hired a plumber. He was a young guy, licensed, and he's tearing out the old cast iron in the basement that goes up to my plumbing fixtures, a shower pan on the first floor and toilets. Well, I wasn't there watching, not that I had to be, but he calls me up and he says, hey, your shower pan upstairs is cracked at the drain. And what's going on? Well, I went over there, and once the shower drain is cracked on a precast, shower drain or base, you're screwed. You can't just hook up a new plastic pipe underneath it to replace the cast iron. And I think what it was, he was just sledging away, with the sledgehammer downstairs and not being cognizant of the fact that old cast iron was, in there tightly on the floor pan of the shower. And as a result, he swung too hard and he cracked it. Well, that required me not only to take out that shower pan, but I also had to gut all the walls, because once you take out the shower pan, you screw up the walls and the surrounding, it was a complete new bathroom, a shower pan and shower. And that was, if I would have hired that out, it'd probably been at least a $3,000 hit. I did it. It's my son's house. But there again, that's somebody that was not totally well-versed or just not experienced enough to know that you got to be careful when you're demoing the old plumbing so you don't screw up what's already there that you want to retain. And it could have been, may have happened with a more experienced plumber. I don't know, but that's a case in point where one thing leads to a major thing. You thought, it's not the end of the world. I just put in a new shower pan. Well, you can't do that when the walls are coming down. They had the old fiberglass surrounds that go down to the shower. It wasn't the prettiest looking thing, but we weren't going to replace it. Well, once you take out that shower pan, you got to take that out in order to get the shower pan out. And then now you're stuck with old looking walls, drywall behind it. You got to gut that, and you got to redo it with hardy board. And we ended up retiling it and everything else. But a major thousands of dollars hit for what that guy did with that one part down at that little floor drain. That's a $30 item, because once that cast base is cracked, you're screwed, So again, it's just knowing what things cost and knowing who you hire and their experience level. All this comes into play, and sometimes things just happen, But it looks pretty now.
Great information, Jim. You're absolutely right that one thing leads to something.
Yeah,
especially in plumbing.
definitely in plumbing.
Yeah, everything is all connected. And,
Yeah.
You break one thing, it can be.
Yeah.
It can't just stop here. It can.
And
Yeah,
when you
certified.
put in quality plumbing fixtures, don't buy cheap, because one call to a plumber will pay for the difference in what quality level you bought that plumbing
Yeah,
fixture.
especially in your rentals, because tenants tend to be a little rougher with everything than we are in our own homes.
Buy toilets with the highest flush capacity that you can get on them. I think they either go 1.4 or 1.6 gallons, and I'm going from memory. But most of them are the lower amount. Get the ones with the higher flush value and good quality ones. I'm not talking a $400 toilet either, but yeah, get a good quality one, and then they'll flush, they won't clog up as much. And like I said, one call difference will make all the, you'll never want to go with a cheap toilet again.
Yeah, and you want to do that yourself. What you just said, I remember Lloyd Siegel when he came from LA coming to our group talking, and he was talking about, and I found this to be true too. He said with contractors you hire, don't necessarily let them pick out your plumbing, the faucets and the toilets and things like that, because they will buy the medium grade that they like to put in. But we had that done on the condo, on Lars condo there. And the faucets, they only lasted about 5 years. They work good right up front. But if you buy some that are just a little bit better, and it's not very much difference in the cost, a lot of times they act like they're helping you, which they probably are in their minds, to get one that's a medium price, that's a good quality, but it's not as good a quality for your own or for your rental as you might want. Because if they only last 5 years, in my book, that's not long enough.
No.
They really need to last 10 years, on your plumbing stuff. Because now you got to tear the wall back out, and because then the pipes, like you say, the pipes were bad now, and we got other problems in there. So
I'll give you one last suggestion for you young landlords. When you're buying a house and rehabbing it, if you're going to keep it, especially the old mains, in the older houses, you try to shut the water off, and you'll still get some water coming through. I usually just have another main faucet put in above, like if it's coming in the basement or whatever, and you got the shut off there, and it doesn't